let's think about, or let's maybe talk a little bit about activation. One of my favorite stages in the customer journey, activation and retention, and how they are strongly linked. I'm really passionate about those two stages. And when we were working on the growth marketing certificate, you highlighted that section and you said, I remember that specifically, you said, it's super important. I've seen so many startups fail just because they cannot, or they don't decide, or they don't know that an onboarding process is so important for people, for you to teach those customers or potential customers that this is how you can use my product and maximize the use of my product or service. So what do you have to say about that?
You are right. I did make that comment about how important it is. Wow, I can speak all day on this.
Wait.
So,
Go ahead.
So the number one killer for, I think, any company is retention. Like, that really distinguished the winners from the losers. But retention is, like, at the end of the day, the output. This is the output of things. The things that go into retention is engagement, is what I like to say, rising of the dead, or resurrection, which is like people like that leave their product and then you need to get them back. But the third one is the most important one, and that's activation. And it is more important because it's the one lever that you can pull that impacts all of your acquired users. Anybody that you acquire, like, activation impacts all of them. Everybody has to go through onboarding. So it's the one thing that impacts all of your actual users. And when I worked with companies, or I talked to other marketeers, and when it comes to activation, number one, they was like, oh, that's a product issue.
Yeah.
If you are solely focused on marketing, they can make a reasonable argument that, oh, we only focus on acquiring users, we only focus on brand awareness. But if you want to really be a growth marketeer, you need to focus on the entire funnel. Everything from brand awareness all the way down to building a product people are going out there and advocating for.
Yeah, referral.
Right, referral. So that's one thing. But when I talk to marketeers, it's like, oh, that's a product issue. It's not a product issue. It's a company issue at the end of the day. So how I really define activation is like the point at which you've gotten a user to establish this habit around your value proposition repeatedly over a significant period of time. Bam, period. That's what activation is. Forming a habit around this core value proposition within a significant period of time. Now, I have products, and I'm pretty sure you do, where you form the habit around. WhatsApp, Instagram, Spotify, Bunk. I'll throw that out there as well. Coinbase, these are all products.
I'm gonna go with my all-time favorite, which is Duolingo.
Duolingo.
That's my all-time favorite app.
They really done a great job.
I think their retention strategy is, I don't know, man. Like, I'm definitely advocating for Duolingo right now. So they're absolutely amazing. But yeah, please.
So these are like the products that I have habits around. And if you think about it, okay, you have the marketing here. Okay, it's the promise that you're delivering to the customer. I promise to deliver this value towards them. And then you have the product itself on this end. What bridges those two things together is activation. It's like, okay, how do I get you from the promise that I've made over to you being an active, engaged user for the rest of your life, as an example. And that's what activation is. Now, like all things, even activation breaks down into certain particular things. I mentioned the first one was this habit. Whatever the core action is of your value proposition or your product that you want to form the habit around, that's what you should focus on.
Yeah, that's what
whatever that action is.
Create the onboarding.
And it's different for particular products.
Yeah.
It's totally different for particular products. With Kaizo, we were testing different core actions to try to establish a habit around. At one point, it was getting a team lead, a customer team lead, support team lead, to look at this performance kind of scorecard that tells them how their team is performing on an everyday basis. And we say, okay, the core action is here. If they comment on a team member's performance at least 3 times a week within the first 14 days of using the product, bam, that's the habit.
So sorry to cut you off, but like it's doing an X number of things or one thing, or doing one thing and a Y number of times. Sorry.
Yeah, it has to be
an X thing a Y number of times. So that's if you want, like how you measure the core or how you think about the core value.
Exactly, and the great way to kind of get to that, it's up to the company to find out what that core action is. What your main value proposition is, which is basically whatever problem you're solving. Yeah. That's your main core value proposition.
It goes back to the fundamentals.
Yeah, but getting to the frequency, how often it needs to be done and within the same time period, that information is identified in really your use case. So how many times do your target persona experience this particular problem? How often do they do it? That information feeds directly into kind of your habit loop. And for, like I said, with Kaizo, we knew that this core action was our main proposition. We knew that this problem was experienced on a weekly basis. And so that's what we came up with. Okay, they need to take this particular action within the first 14 days of the actual product. So that's kind of the first part that I would identify as activation. But then the second kind of component of it, and I'm pretty sure everybody has heard of this. It's been called sometimes eureka moment. I even heard that, but most of the time it's been called aha moment.
Yeah.
Whatever is the aha moment. I've even heard eureka moment, which I thought was just a great spin on just a thing, but it's the same thing. Yeah. What that is the moment in which that user experienced that core action for the first time. Just think of you using your particular product and you get to that product's core action, that moment in which you realize that product solved your problem. You're like, I get it. I now understand why I need to use this.
Yeah.
That's what is defined really as that aha moment, that core value proposition, getting that user to that point for the first time. And then the last piece of activation is one that is consistently worked on from B2C and B2B companies. It's one of the hardest things to do. And that is onboarding.
Yeah.
Or how you set someone up to experience your value proposition in your product. And these are the actions that are taken to get the person in the product experience and get them to that aha moment. Yeah. Think of things like, I need your name, I need your email. Think of Slack, I need you to invite multiple friends, which sets off a whole nother viral loop that
Facebook did that.
Facebook as well, invite your friends. Yeah. Think about all those things you ask of a user that are a must-have in order to get them successfully onboarded and then to that aha moment. So these are, when you think about how to improve activation, these are the areas that you really need to focus on. Okay, what habit are we trying to actually get the user around? What is that moment that they realize like, oh, I get this particular product, and then how you get them to that moment. Yeah. And I think it's one of the most important areas that companies need to focus on. It actually is what can kill a product experience. And like I said, activation impacts 100% of your acquired users, which means if you don't get that right, you run the risk of removing a lot of those users out of your actual pipeline.
A lot of potential, yeah.
Yeah.